Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're opening up the wiring closet, metaphorically speaking, to look at a small but, well, pretty important piece of hardware.
Yeah, we're talking about the WolfPack 1080p 1x2 HDMI splitter. It's got EDIDS management and a built-in booster.
Right. Our goal today is really to dig into what makes this tick. We want to unpack those technical terms EDID booster and figure out what they actually mean for performance and compatibility.
Exactly. And this specific model, the HDTV 312, it's listed at around $75.
Which brings up the core question, doesn't it?
Definitely. Why spend that much when you can find HDMI splitters for like 20 bucks? What makes this one professional? What problems does it solve that, the cheaper ones often create?
Okay, let's start with the basics then. It takes one HDMI source, sends it to two HDMI displays simultaneously.
Yep. Standard 1:2 split supports 2D, 3D resolutions up to 1080p. It's HDMI 1.4 compliant, all fairly standard stuff on the surface.
But the real magic, or maybe the key engineering, seems to be in how it handles the signals, right?
Yep.
Especially with that EDI chipset they mentioned.
Absolutely. This is where it tackles those major pain points. You know the scenario, you've got two TVs connected, maybe one upstairs, one downstairs. You turn one off.
And the other one suddenly blinks out or starts acting weird. Yeah, I've seen that.
Exactly. That happens because cheaper splitters get confused. The source device, like your cable box, loses the signal info or gets conflicting info. This WolfPack unit, though, has a newer EDID chip specifically designed to prevent that.
So turning off one display doesn't mess up the signal going to the other one. They're independent.
Precisely. Output independence. And apparently, even if you leave one output port completely unplugged, it doesn't disrupt the signal on the port that is connected. That's a big deal.
Okay, that is useful. And they also mentioned something about keeping the sound and picture in sync.
Right. Another feature of the chipset, it works to make sure there's no noticeable delay between the audio and video. You avoid that lip sync issue you sometimes get.
All right, so this EDID thing is clearly important. Let's break it down. What exactly is EDID?
Okay, so EDID stands for Extended Display Identification Data. It's basically a little packet of information defined by VISA, the standards body.
And what information is in there?
It holds basic info about the display, the manufacturer, the maximum resolution it supports, color details, timing information, stuff like that. Your source device, like your Xbox or Blu-ray player, reads this data through the HDMI cable.
Using something called the Display Data Channel, or DDC.
Exactly. It uses that EDID info to configure its own output signal so it's compatible with the screen.
Okay, that makes sense for one source and one display. But with a splitter, you've got two displays. What if they have different capabilities? Like one's a 1080p TV and the other's an older 720p monitor.
That's the crucial part. This splitter is smart about it. It reads the EDID from both connected displays. Then it figures out the maximum resolution that both screens can handle.
So it finds the lowest common denominator.
Precisely. In your example, 1080p and 720p, the lowest common denominator is 720p. The splitter then tells the source device, hey, the maximum resolution you should send is 720p.
So the source outputs 720p, which both the 1080p TV and the 720p monitor can display correctly?
Right. It sacrifices the higher potential of the 1080p screen in that scenario, but it guarantees a stable picture on both screens. No black screens, no errors. Stability over maximum resolution.
That explains why it works reliably with so many devices, Blu-ray players, game consoles like the PS3 or Xbox 360, satellite receivers, even PC video cards. It manages that handshake reliably.
And speaking of compatibility, the documentation also mentions this newer chipset improves things with HDMI cables that have their own boosters built in, and also HDMI over C-Type 6 extenders.
Okay, so it plays nice with other signal boosting gear, which actually brings us to the other main feature, the built-in booster or amplifier.
Yeah, that's another reason it gets the professional tag. Standard HDMI cables lose signal quality over distance. This splitter has an amplifier built right in to counteract that.
How much further can you actually run the cables then?
Well, the specs say it can drive a signal up to 15 meters, that's about 50 feet, using a decent quality 26 AWG HDMI cable. Maybe 10 meters with a thinner 28 AWG cable. They recommend thicker cables like 24 or 22 AWG for best results, naturally.
15 meters is quite a bit further than the typical, 5-meter limit people often talk about for passive HDMI.
Yeah.
That gives you a lot more flexibility in where you place your displays relative to the source.
Definitely. Think about installations in conference rooms, classrooms, or even just larger homes. That extra distance can be critical.
Okay, let's try and summarize the key takeaways for everyone listening. What are the main advantages of something like this WolfPack splitter?
I'd say there are three main things. First, the way it handles EDID means your outputs are independent. Turning one TV off won't kill the signal to the other.
Right. Second, it automatically manages different screen resolutions by outputting the highest resolution that all connected displays support, ensuring compatibility. The lowest common denominator trick.
Exactly. And third, that built-in booster gives you significantly longer HDMI cable runs, up to 15 meters, which is great for flexibility.
So it's about stability, compatibility, and reach.
Excellent.
Makes sense why it costs more than the basic models?
Absolutely. But here's something to maybe think about. We mentioned how it forces the source down to the lowest common resolution to ensure stability across all displays.
Yeah, the 720p example.
Right. So the final thought is this. How do you weigh that trade-off? You gain guaranteed stability and compatibility, which is often paramount, especially in professional setups. But you potentially sacrifice the maximum picture quality on your best display if another lower-res display is also connected. It's an interesting balance between system robustness and, well, maximizing visual potential, isn't it?
That's a really good point. Stability versus maximizing potential. Something for you to ponder.